Hello, welcome to NeoMix.Live. I'm Tamara Neo, thank you for joining me. And take a moment and subscribe to the channel so that you're sure to follow all the fun that I've got in store. I've got a ton of videos backed up. This one being the first of many. It's taken me, 6 weeks to get this one done. But I finally have a video on the renovation of my floors. Actually, the bedroom that my daughter, my oldest daughter, this is her room. She wanted a more adult room, and so we've already painted it, and this is a video just on renovating those floors. I did not have the wherewithal and funds to renovate or to rent the sanders and all the edgers and all the fancy machines that I'm sure would have done this much faster. But I think this is interesting because it shows you what you can do with a belt sander and a little palm sander. I am happy with the results. I'll give you that right up front. Whether I would do this again, wait for the end and we'll talk about it then. So without any further ado, let me get started here. All right, this is my sweet little helper. My what do you want to do? And he jumps in with me. So I had my son go around the room first and pull out all of the various nails and staples. There are a ton of staples. So do you see the little border there? When we first renovated her room years ago, we took off the original molding, and you can see it was quite substantial. In fact, there's a gap coming up where you can see there's a hole in her floor that was hidden by that. Now that hole is going to be filled, and now that the floor's done, I'm going to put on some quarter round, and we're actually even going to put up some crown molding. But this is the process. Now you can see he's first he goes after it with a screwdriver. He's going heavy here. I would have never let this further into the floor. He's digging a little further into the wood than I would have liked, but this is going to be hidden by the quarter rounds. So
might as well do the best job.
So
Echo, play the hot sardines.
I am a burn the ship and dive in kind of DIYer. So this is what I first did. I took that belt sander out and I did a corner. I wanted to see what it was going to do. And once you're in, you're committed. There's no backing out. Now there you can see again, that's the edge where the original molding was. And you can't quite tell, but there's a gigantic slope between where it was and where the floor is now. So clearly these floors have been redone several times. So that was part of the effort in all of this, was to get up to that boundary and level it. I didn't need it to be completely level. I'm not that picky about it, but I needed it to be a whole lot closer than what it was. So I broke belt after belt after belt, and I could not figure out why. And I now learned it's because they were old belts. They were the belts that had been sitting with the sander for probably 5 years, six years, maybe longer. And once I got some new belts on, no more problems. So you can see, going with the grain of the wood and vacuum right away, because I'm not one for rolling in sawdust. Now, eventually you'll get to the point where you can see the cracks in between, or well, crack's not quite the right word, but the space between each board. On mine, these are very old boards. This house is at least 1880, and there's some argument that it's 1865. So this is a very old house. And these are the original floors. So someone had told me about putting in sawdust into those. And several somebodies did it. I just thought, man, I just spent all that time vacuuming up all the sawdust. I don't think I'm inclined to put it back into little cracks and hope that it stays there. So I chose a different route, and you'll see that shortly. As you can see, sand, vacuum. By this point, this is like the 4th day of doing this. And this was my last little effort. And I woke up and I'm like, I'm not even getting dressed. I'm just gonna do that last little piece right now. So that's what I did. And you can see there's one little area in the middle of the floor that I had to go back and get an extension cord. None of my cords or my walls were quite close enough to finish that little area. But I did eventually get it done. There we go. You can see it's all sanded. Looks good, huh? So that is a 3-gallon container of polyurethane. It is a product that if you put it on, You can go without sanding as long as you put on the second coat or the third coat or however many coats within 4 to 12 hours. So that was my goal entering it. So here you can see this is where I'm taking a hand brush or a brush and I'm hand painting in to each of the little areas between the two boards to try and fill what in some places are substantial gaps. Someone had told me that perhaps another idea would be epoxy, filling that with epoxy. I've never used epoxy, so it seemed like just kind of a bridge too far for this project. If I were to do it again, I'd try the epoxy. In the end, what I was able to do is take a gap that went like this and maybe smooth it a little bit by going over and over and over those. But it's still a little divot, and as we know, little divots catch dust. So it's not a perfect one. But again, this was the floor you could not walk on with bare feet, or you were guaranteed a splinter at some point somewhere in that room. So for me, this was about improvement, not perfection. Now, this is very blurry because I didn't bring the camera close, but you can see I have a little, actually I think that's like a party favor can, and it's filled, and I'm putting the first down, and I'm using the squeegee technique, and I love it. I love the squeegee technique. It's great for the first coat. Oh my gosh. And that's just all it is you've got this little can, pour a bunch on, and you squeegee and move, and squeegee and move, and squeegee and move. Went really quickly. Very impressed. So this is now the second coat. So I chose to take a little hand brush and again go around the edges to try and make sure that it's real smooth around those edges. And using the theory of when you're painting, always paint to a wet edge, I used the same thing here. Once the edge was done, I didn't complete the rest of the room. I went ahead and just started squeegeeing. There's a good shot of it. You can see, you're just moving it along, moving it along, moving it along. Now this is the second coat using the squeegee. It was harder to tell where it was going and was I skipping a spot. Obviously with the first coat, you could clearly see the color differentiation. So this is me recognizing after that had dried that there were little hairs. Not a lot, but a few, and enough to make me crazy. So I had to let that floor completely dry. So that's 12 hours or more, and then the requirements, the directions require you re-sand the whole thing. So I'm hitting the spots that I wasn't happy with. I did find a few high spots that I got rid of as well, and I'm re-sanding the whole thing. Now this is a light sand with a palm sander. It's not a heavy grit. I think I've used like a 120 or 180. Just a light sand to get everything up. I hear people use steel wool. I didn't have any, so I used just a light sand. And I was done with my big vac and ready for my little Hoover. So I used my Hoover to vacuum everything else that came up. But lots of vacuum. Vacuum one way, vacuum the next way. I got my hose out. Every single little bit of dust that I could get up, got up. Sometimes I would come across a spot that I missed, so I brought my little sand paper with me and I covered it and then vacuumed it back up. When it was all said and done, it was really good. No little areas that I could catch.
Okay, I'm really hoping this is the last day. I've sanded all the little spots that I had caught. There were also some little high spots in what had been put down. So I think I've got them all sanded. I'm switching to a roller. The squeegee was awesome for the first go round because it was very clear where I'd touched and where I hadn't. The second go round it became harder to tell where I'd been and where I'd not. So I'm going to use one of these thin foam rollers. You can see that. Super, super thin. And give it a go. Somebody has borrowed my extension pole, so I have, anytime I've got a broom that I'm getting rid of, I always keep the poles because they work just as well. So, All right, get some gloves on, protect my nails, Miss Tracy. And
I'm clearly tired at this point.
see where we end up. Got a feeling I'm gonna need some more polyurethane.
All right.
We'll see.
See how that's going on? Doesn't it look pretty? Love that roller. I did end up doing one more coat after that because I really wanted it thick and heavy and on well. So this is the very last coat. I did have to buy an additional gallon. I used every bit of that additional gallon. Ta-da! With my rug down, no less, and my little rescue kitty. So that's it. That's it. It was a good project. I'm very glad that I did it. I took it on. I'm really pleased with the results. When I have the room all put together, I'll give you a before and after from the 14-year-old's room to the halfway through college room. And I think eventually it'll be a nice guest room for us. And temporarily it's going to be my space. I'm going to relocate up there while I empty up my master and gut that master. That master's going down to the studs. No idea how long that process is going to take. So there probably won't be a video. Check it back in a year. Maybe that one will be ready to go. But that master or the guest room will be put together here probably pretty soon. So I'll show it to you. Would I do this again this way? No. I guess unless I absolutely had to have the floor done and there was no chance of finding some way to fund the floor person or fund the equipment, the big heavy equipment. It just was too long, too many days, too hard on my back. I'm not one who likes to crawl around on my knees, knee pads or no. So it was a lot of bending, stooping, etc. A lot of yoga moves, a lot of stretching. So I'm glad that I'm very flexible and was able to keep up with that. But I am really pleased with how it turned out. So that's it for now. I have a lot of things still coming up in the hopper. I have another episode of Coffee Houses of Appalachia. I have several VMI videos that are up right now and kind of recirculating because the year is starting out for the young cadets and young rats that are starting their first year in college. So I might make another one, kind of from a mom's perspective as to what to expect. And, a couple other surprises. So that's it for now. Thank you so very much for joining me. Please make sure you subscribe and like the video and hit the little bell for notifications. And I will see you the next time we've got one up. Okay?